Oxen. If I could have everyone's attention, please. We're about to begin our service. I'll ask that everyone please be seated that needs to be. If I could ask the family to please be seated. Folks, could I ask everyone to please be seated? We're going to ask that everyone please take a moment to turn your cell phones to their silent mode before we begin, or off. Our services today will be conducted by Rabbi Michael Sommer and Cantor Jane Hyman. Amen.
El Harim Me'ayin Yavo Hezri Esainai El Harim Me'ayin Yavo Hezri Ezri Me'im Adonai Ose Shamayim Varetz Ezri Me'im Adonai Ose Shamayim Varetz.
The psalmist in those words wrote long ago, I lift my eyes to the mountains. What is the source of my help? My help comes from Adonai, maker of heaven and earth. God will not let your foot give way. Your protector will not slumber. See, the protector of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. God is your guardian. God is your protection at your right hand. The sun will not strike you by day, nor the moon by night. God will guard you from all harm. God will guard your soul, your going and coming now and forever. Our writings teach us that a woman of strength, beauty, and kindness, who can find? She is more precious than fine gems. Her family loves and depends on her, and so they lack nothing. She does good by them, never harm all the days of her life. She perceives that her labor is rewarding. Her candle burns on into the night. She reaches out to those in need and extends her hands to everyone. She is clothed in strength and dignity, and she faces the future cheerfully. If that's not jokey, I don't know what is. She speaks with wisdom. The law of kindness is on her lips. Her children rise up and bless her. Her family entire sing her praises. But you excel them all. Josephine Jokey Solomon is and will always be a beacon of light for all who know and love her. She lived the best life she knew how in her incredible 97 years. In her life, Jokey added beauty, intelligence, warmth to this world. The rabbis believe there are always 30 distance keeps the world whole. I truly believe Jokey was a Lamed Vavnik, one of those 36, making the world a better place wherever she went. There is never enough time with those we love most in the world, but this moment comes for all of us when we must grieve our loss while remembering all that was good of our loved one. Jokey was an incredible daughter, mother, grandmother, niece, aunt, and friend. Daughter of Saul and Esther of blessed memory, sister of Morton and Blanche, both of blessed memory, mother to Debbie and Bob, Rena and Mark, Michael and Diane, Elisa and Marilyn, beloved grandmother to Benji, Alex and his wife Rachel and Jory, aunt to Sharon, Ruthie, Linda, Jonathan, Adina, Jay, Ron, Amy, Barbara, Wendy, Daniel, Stephen, and David, longtime friend and piano duettist of Raina, and friend to so many. We remember Jokey for her love and devotion and all the moments she made a difference in our lives. May her memory always be a blessing, as she was such a blessing to all of us. I wrote this poem long ago that just fits Jokey. Fight my fight. Dry your tears and pick up the mantle I've left you. Fight my fight for those in need and for those who never had a me to share their lives. Fight my fight by caring for the stranger, the sick, the silent, the victim, the child, the one who has no one else to come to their side and defend them from the world. Fight my fight because it is the right thing to do. Take my love for you and share it with the rest of the world in hopes of filling it up with a love so big that you find every person standing by your side as a defender of all that is good. May you all fill the world with the light I've always tried to share with every person I've known or loved. My hand may not be in yours, but know that my spirit lives in your heart, and my light can never be extinguished as long as memories of me give you the strength you need to fight my fight. The Byrds made popular these ancient words, these ancient words of Ecclesiastes when they sang that there is a time for everything and a season for every activity under the heavens, a time to be born and a time to die. And we all know they happen at the same moment, that we celebrate life, and we celebrate life even in death. A time to plant and a time to uproot, a time to tear down and a time to build, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to scatter stones and a time to gather them, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to search and a time to give up, a time to keep and a time to throw away, a time to tear and a time to mend, a time to be silent and a time to speak. And now is the time we speak of Jokey's incredible life, as I invited her daughter, Debbie, to speak of her mother.
Three-year-old Benjamin, our firstborn, 3-year-old Benjamin, our firstborn, wasn't eating dinner because he was too busy squishing peas with his thumb. That's when I heard it. Words I'd frequently heard our mom, who'd grown up in the aftermath of the Great Depression. Words that came out of my mouth almost involuntarily. Words that left me stunned after I said them. Benji, stop playing with your food. There are children starving in the world. That was the first time I remember saying a homily. A homily is something I attribute to my mother, a piece of wisdom she'd often say, a phrase, saying, expression, joke, story, comment, belief that resonated and became etched in my brain. A few examples of frequent homilies I heard while growing up include, while I practiced piano, Debbie, that's not how Chopin intended that etude. Count out loud. How I envied my sister Rena, who studied the flute. Alicia, do you know what time it is? Put that book down and turn out that light and go to sleep. Michael, don't throw that baseball in the house. The fact that Michael was actually holding a football was kind of moot, as our mom never followed sports. Rena Sue Solomon, don't you let that dog sleep on your bed. But most of my mom's homilies encapsulated valuable lessons, things that as a parent I deliberately embraced as Bob and I raised our own 3 children, trying to emulate her parenting example, unbounded, unconditional love, wisdom, and of particular significance, her ability to let us know that she was always on our side, except when we'd done something wrong, at which time she would be by our side as she guided us to make amends. Of course, I can't omit her enthusiasm and satisfaction for teaching us about our Jewish heritage, or her incredible sense of humor or contagious love of the arts. One homily I know my children will easily recognize. Quote, music is a joyful and necessary part of life, just as necessary as math, history, science, or any other subject. Sometimes Mom's homilies provided a life-altering lesson. 18 months into our marriage, Bob and I moved from Chicago to Kansas City, Mom's hometown. In the beginning, I remember calling home often. Sometimes I was actually crying because I felt so lonely. Mom kept telling me, give it time. Kansas City is a wonderful place. I don't like it here, I lamented. Sally and Mark and the Schoenbergs and all my friends. After several such phone calls, my mother told me the following story. Quote, a stranger to a new town came to see the rabbi. Rabbi, the stranger said, I'm new to this town and I'm curious. What kind of town is this? The rabbi looked at the stranger and asked him, what kind of town did you come from? The man answered, a wonderful town filled with wonderful, kind, generous people. It was a beautiful place to live. The rabbi then said, I think you will find this town to be very much the same. A few weeks later, another stranger to the same town went to see the rabbi. Rabbi, he said, I'm new to this town. What kind of town is this? Again, the rabbi asked, what kind of town did you come from? The man responded, it was a horrible place. The people were mean, unfriendly, and very selfish. It was a terrible place to live. And the rabbi said, I think you will find this town to be very much the same. I got the message. Shortly after this conversation, things in Kansas City started turning around, and it's now been our home for 44 plus years. As usual, Mom was right. Our mom was a special magnet. She attracted wonderful, accomplished, and interesting people. Her home was always open, and it was never a problem for her to set an extra place or two at her welcoming table, even at the last minute. Hang on. She didn't care what anyone's background was. What she cared about was their heart. She was so blessed and enriched by her lifelong friends, as were we. She also became the loving center of gravity for the Feynman Kleiman clan. Mom exuded unconditional love and accepted us on her own terms, encouraging us to follow our own paths, just a few of the qualities that I hope I have come close to living up to. However, even at this late stage in my own life, I am still learning from her. She always had a positive attitude and did things with great thought. One momly lesson I'm still trying to learn as a person in general, as well as a parent, is to, quote, listen more, talk less, unquote, and especially to know when to hold my tongue. Often, when, for example, I feel like giving my now grown kids unsolicited advice, I remember Mom's words, quote, when in doubt, don't say it. Once you've said it, you can't take it back, but you can always say it later, unquote. And whenever I share this homily, if my kids do ask for advice, I always preface it by saying, Grandma always told me. But that's not the lesson I need in this moment. Right now, it's hard to find my tongue because there simply aren't enough words to explain how wonderful our mom was.
Words from Rena that she asked me to read. Dear Mom, I am writing to you in this moment. You are downstairs in your hospital bed. Michael is close by, and all of your children, loved friends, and family have been surrounding you in love. It's easy to do because you gave so much love out, and now all this love has come back to you. You are special to so many. All that knew you loved you. You always told me to speak from my heart. My heart misses you. It was painful to see your illness take over your body. But with your positive outlook, you always said, I have to make friends with my limitations. And you did for a long time. You stayed engaged in life as long as you could. You continued to have fun with your family and friends and play the piano. We celebrated so many birthdays together all the way up to 97. You supported all of your children in their uniqueness. You came to just every one of my dance concerts, worried about me living in New York City when I was 18 years old, but allowed me to go anyway to pursue my dance. And you did call me every day to make sure I was safe. You gave so much to us. You know how to have fun despite hardship, how to make lemonade out of lemons, as you say. I think you have always been an optimist. What a great role model for your 4 children, having a fulfilling career and raising 4 kids practically on your own at the same time. What a great cook and baker. Music and the arts appreciation, support for all of your children, their spouses, and grandchildren. So many felt unconditional love from Mom. Josie always would rise to the occasion. Words to describe Mom. Love, true friend, music and arts, lover, teacher, educator, joke teller, loves life and loves to laugh, supportive mom, great cook and baker, has integrity, honesty, always wanting to learn, staying current, carrot squash soup, bar cookies, making the Jewish holidays special in our home. One night I had a dream. Mom was up in a tree, handing a tree branch to each of us. Each branch represents to me my mom's heart, reaching out to her children and supporting each one of us in our uniqueness. Mom is the root and strong, sturdy trunk supporting us. Love you, Mom, always. You will always be in my heart. And just as you said to me that you talk and think of Grandma every day, I too will think of you every day and feel you in my heart always. And now I have a note from Bob Solomon, son-in-law. I need to take you back 47 years ago when Debbie and I first started dating. My other mother didn't hesitate to invite me to her weekly Friday night Shabbat dinners. I became family almost immediately, along with her 4 kids and the usual guests, including Erwin and Phyllis Wagodny, with kids Jay, Joyce, Jeff, and Barbara, Bob and Dorothy Komeko, Bob and Sarah Danzig, and Sam and Ellie Taview, along with occasional visiting family like Sharon, Linda, and Jonathan. The food she would serve on these Friday nights was spectacular and a welcome sight for this bachelor, especially her desserts. Jokey would always orchestrate an interesting discussion on the arts, mostly music, education, religion, or politics. She would entertain us on her Steinway grand piano with the latest classical piano piece she was working on as an encore. To this untrained ear, I always thought it was Carnegie Hall worthy. But the best event that we constantly laughed about for the next 46 years, right up to just 2 weeks ago, when we were together celebrating Jokey's 97th birthday, was the night I arrived with a box of chocolates from Heath Candy Company, made from their original recipe. I brought the chocolates from my new girlfriend Debbie, who left it behind at the house on Stonegate while we went out on our date. However, when we returned a few hours later, Jokey's love of chocolates got the best of her, as she'd worked over the majority of that box of chocolates. I knew at that point I had won her over, and she would help me win over her daughter for the next 46 years. Love, Bob. At this point, I call up Elisa to talk about her mom.
Family. Chopin 18. Mozart 18. Charoset 18. Kvetch 18. 791 Stonegate, the address of our family house. And a few more times family, sometimes rendered family 18. Those are passwords for various online accounts our beloved mom had over the years. They might not be particularly secure passwords. I guess our family tech master, her adored son-in-law Mark, hadn't helped on those. But they do a remarkable job of reflecting much of who Mom was. First of all, her zest for life, as that near ubiquitous 18, high, indicates. Also, sweet and very specifically Jewish, like Charoset, and with her remarkably positive outlook, never a complainer, except maybe when it came to anything involving computers, hence that kvetch. Those Chopin and Mozart passwords, obvious. Music filled her home from before my earliest childhood memories to as recently as 3 weeks ago, when she sat at the piano for the last time with her dear friend and forehand piano partner Raina to play Diabelli. And always in topmost family, biological and chosen. She found profound meaning and pleasure in her relationships of all kinds, and she gave meaning in them too. Nowadays, people talk about wanting to be seen, recognized for who they are in all their fullness. Our mom could have given lessons in how to provide that. While very centered in her own being, to invoke some other current lingo, I'd have to call her thoroughly values-driven, she was genuinely curious about others, unflaggingly interested, empathic, and non-judgmental. And while she was a great conversationalist with grown-ups, holding her own whether exchanging jokes or conferring about innovations in Jewish education or discussing the news, she had a special affinity for children. One of the first times my partner Marilyn came for a visit with me in the late 1980s, we accompanied Mom to Shabbat services at B'nai Torah, where she was the educational director for a special kids program. In a way that someone from outside a situation can help make visible what has come to seem normal to you, Marilyn expressed amazement. Kids came running up to Mom to say hello. She not only knew each child by name, but had something specific to ask each one. Are you looking forward to your soccer game tomorrow? How do you like having a baby sister? Marilyn said that Josie was like a happy and Jewish twist on the Pied Piper. My brother Michael reminded me that when he'd bring friends home from school, they'd come in, have a snack, and he'd be ready to go out and play, but his friends would linger, enjoying hanging out with our mom, and it wasn't just because of the homemade cookies, though those certainly were a draw. For her own 4 kids, that magic was magnified 1,000-fold. Somehow, while working full-time and raising us on her own, she managed to spend time alone with each of us, and that carried on all the way to the end. For our fantastic birthday parties as kids, she organized art-making activities like paper bag puppets and fun games that required no equipment, just our creative imaginations, a part of our being she considered as important to develop as healthy bodies, intellects, and values. When we scraped a knee or caught the flu, she would sprinkle us with wiffle dust, her own potent, if invisible, concoction, applied with wiggled fingers, gentle blowing, and a kiss. Mom saw, respected, and nurtured in each of us our own individual interests and gifts, and she took great but never cloying pride in them. Going through some of the piles of papers in her house the other day, I found decades-old programs from Rena's dance performances, letters of commendation about Mike during his years as a paramedic, newspaper columns and project plans written by Debbie, crumbling yellow clippings of articles I wrote over the years. My best example of her nurturing of our uniqueness, as Rena calls it, is a gift she gave me when I was a teenager. The card that accompanied it concluded, quote, "When it comes to ways of dressing, we have such different views. Still, for your 15th birthday, you get field hockey shoes." In one of the pieces Mom wrote in her memoir writing class that she took after she retired, she mentions that she always wanted to raise her children to become, quote, caring, kind, socially useful adults. And it's to her credit, not ours, for me to say that she fully succeeded. That combination, caring, kind, socially useful, defines her politics for me too. She wasn't ideological and certainly never doctrinaire, but she expected compassion, kindness, and social usefulness from public servants of all kinds. The summer I turned 8, she suddenly told us she didn't want us to buy ice cream bars from the Good Humor Man whose truck came down Stonegate from time to time. Why? The truck's bumper sticker that declared, "Goldwater for President." Once, when she was making her usual rounds at B'nai Torah during class time, she heard a Hebrew teacher telling his students that Arabs were not like us, not fully human, really. She politely asked him to accompany her into the hallway, where she said, "Get your things, you're fired. We do not teach hatred at this school." She calmly walked back into the classroom to teach the rest of the session. On and off over the years, Mama and I talked about her writing an ethical will. She'd say she wanted to, but she never got quite around to it. I don't know if that's because she didn't want to think about dying, though in her last month or so, she told me with matter-of-fact calmness that she knew it was coming soon. But the better reason, I think, is that she didn't need to write down what she so thoroughly instilled in us and shared with the world. Even as Parkinson's disease diminished her physical capacities, she kept her optimism and her sparkle, always rising to an occasion. And miraculously, when her hands could barely handle a spoon anymore, her fingers still found music at the piano. Her own invincible, joyous spirit had a lot to do with that. So did the skillful and affectionate attention of her caregivers, Lulu, Christy Adasa, and Gina Logan, as well as the loving touch and real friendship of Joyce Ann. We appreciate them all so much. As I write this, I'm sitting in one of Mom's favorite places, her patio, where Sylvia and Axel delighted her by planting and tending beautiful flowers each spring. I'm watching the robins and sparrows gather at the bird feeder Debbie so thoughtfully gave her. Mom observed them intently every day, making up stories about their interactions and listening to their songs. She stayed interested and engaged all through our lives, embracing our partners with her full heart, asking me about my students pretty much up till the end. Rena told me that the last time Mom went outside, about a week before she passed, she asked to be wheeled to the patio and positioned so that she could gaze at the black haw viburnum tree. She wanted, she said, to, quote, She said, quote, quiet and to just be. I know I will feel her presence intensely whenever I quietly look at a tree, and when I brew my morning coffee, labor at the Times crossword puzzle, hear Schubert, light Yontif candles, bake apricot squares, which, by the way, like most of the things I bake, are filed in my recipe app under M, Mom's Apricot Squares, and on innumerable occasions, predictable and not. I know I will feel her. I know I will feel at once her constant presence as well as her gaping absence, a hurt that no amount of wiffle dust will ever alleviate. Far from complete, but for now and from my point of view, as she always said, that's her story, and I'm sticking to it. COVID Erlichtiken on deck.
I invite up Jokie's grandson, Benji, to speak.
Grandma lived a life full of family and friends, full of love, and full of virtue. Grandma was known for her fondness of all things chocolate, cookies, brownies, and baked goods galore. It was one of the many, many privileges of being her grandchild. Whether for holidays or just stopping by for a visit, Grandma would undoubtedly have something fresh out of the oven awaiting your arrival. And as Alex recently reminded me, even the past few years, my siblings and I would stop at Once Upon a Bagel to buy out the store before a visit. It was our chance to spoil Grandma. And yet, even as we arrived carrying weeks' worth of groceries and goodies, Grandma would still insist on fixing us just a little something. Her generosity and kindness was endless. I will never forget the Passover Seders hosted by Grandma. They were undoubtedly the hottest ticket in town. Grandma's entire house was upended with rearranged furniture to make room for the extra folding tables and ensure that there was enough seats for everyone. The Seders were always inclusive, with lively discussions about Jewish teachings, world affairs, and songs, and everyone's participation was expected. And every year, new faces would join us, the very epitome of welcoming the stranger. But for Grandma, stranger didn't seem like a label befitting anyone. It was just a fleeting notion before they became a lifelong friend. She had a smile and an unassuming charm that was as magnetic as it was genuine. Grandma also instilled a love and appreciation of music. She didn't much care about the difference between football and soccer, but if you played a couple bars at the piano, she'd instantly tell you whether it was Beethoven or Brahms. I remember visiting as a little kid playing with toy cars under the piano while she played the latest piece she had learned. And I remember as I got older, when Grandma came to visit us in Kansas City for our piano recitals, as her gift of music was shared through the generations. Over the past few days and weeks of reflection, in the midst of the overwhelming sadness, I remembered an anecdote that made me burst out laughing, and so I have to share. Grandma was known for her amusing acronyms and alliterations for words not to be said in the presence of polite company. My siblings and I made sure never to say such words or things in front of Grandma. But a year or so ago, while my parents and I spent the day with Grandma, we were deciding what to order for dinner. And even as Grandma's body began to wear and her speech became increasingly difficult, she excitedly suggested a restaurant that began with the letter F. My dad's already laughing. She excitedly suggested a restaurant that began with the letter F, except that it didn't come out that way. Instead, it came out as one of those words not to be mentioned in polite company. And you can imagine my shock. I had never heard my grandmother use such language. But Grandma immediately heard the mistake. She turned beet red and started laughing uncontrollably. And as the lifelong educator, I think Grandma would say that the lesson was that no matter what life brings, no matter the hardship or the struggles, we should never lose our sense of humor and our ability to laugh, even at oneself. There are few joys greater than walking into a kitchen to the smell of fresh-baked treats and a doting Grandma eager to spoil you. I'm grateful for those 41 years, those cherished memories.
Words from Jokey's son-in-law, Mark. Food, glorious food. Even when I was dating Rena early on, it was apparent to me that Rena's mom, Josie, and I shared at least one thing in common: homemade cookies. It wasn't that I made them often myself, mind you, but I enjoyed eating them. And Josie enjoyed both making them and serving them. A match made in heaven. It wasn't until my wedding day, though, that I realized the full impact Josie's cookies had, not just on me, but on everyone. Rena and I had carefully chosen our reception dinner, ending, of course, with dessert, an assortment of delicious but expensive pastries, with Josie adding a tray of her cookies. Josie had other ideas, though, and arrived with several trays in tow, enough to knock the expensive pastries to the back row of the table, almost as an afterthought. Our caterer, Jim, was surprised, a little taken aback, but being a professional and a good guy in general, he obliged our request to arrange the cookies front and center. Trust me, it'll be okay. She's put in so much time and effort, we can't just put them in the back, and so forth. In the end, the trays of Josie's cookies were pretty much decimated, while the expensive pastries went pretty much untouched. And there were universal rave reviews from our guests who were so grateful to have eaten Josie's cookies again, and some after many years had passed. As for Jim, as he was packing up the expensive pastries into a doggy bag, he looked up and said with an appreciative smile, "Excellent." Over the years, we had a lot of food adventures together. Barbecue chicken from Players, an occasional peach pie I would make. Rena and I taking our mothers to Monastero's Italian restaurant in Lincolnwood, where the waitresses would compliment us loudly in front of the other diners. That's the way you do it. Respect for your mothers. And bears, beer, and pizza. It didn't happen too often, but as Josie's Parkinson's progressed, but before she had need for a full-time caregiver, I would spend a Sunday afternoon with her, just the two of us. On the way from Evanston, I would stop at Piero's Pizza and buy a small veggie pie and just one can of beer. And the two of us would split our pizza and one can of beer, watching the Chicago Bears. Josie didn't care much about the Bears, and usually after one quarter, neither did I, but we enjoyed our time together. We would look at each other and smile like we were getting away with something, imagining having a beer in the middle of the day. Boy, were we getting away with it. It was a special time, the kind of time you rarely get with your mother-in-law. Then there was my mother's potato salad, or as Josie would always say, egg salad. A simple recipe of potato, eggs, chopped onion, celery, and sweet pickles, topped with a secret sauce. It became a fave for Josie. Over the past year, the recipe was changed slightly to accommodate advancing Parkinson's. Potatoes were peeled. Celery and onions were diced smaller, and then celery eliminated completely, all to avoid choking hazards. The amount of sweet pickles was cut in half to curb salt intake, as with the amount of secret sauce. But Josie still enjoyed her egg salad. At a time when eating was becoming more difficult for her, she still dug into her salad every time it was available. I'm happy to report that there is a fresh bowl of potato salad at the Shiva tonight in Josie's honor. Full on onion, celery, pickles, sauce, and for Josie, extra egg. Please have some. Finally, 3 weeks ago today, I baked what was to become Josie's last birthday cake. A chocolate malt cake with chocolate malt icing, topped with crushed chocolate malted milk balls. A Josie special to be sure. We had the option of simply buying a cake, but that didn't sit right with me. Josie had spent so much of her life creating food and love for others. She deserved the best, or at least the best I could do. I'm so glad that I took the time to bake that cake and that she was able to enjoy it. I love you, and I will miss you, Josie. Thank you for being such a thoughtful and wonderful mother-in-law to me. But while I content myself with cheater cookies bought from the store, I know that someday our paths will cross again, and it'll be in the big nosh in the sky. I look forward to that reunion. I call up Jokey's niece, Sharon, to speak.
I love all the repetitions that we're hearing. It really says yeah. I want to share a few thoughts about my wonderful Aunt Josie. Josie was the kid sister of my mother Blanche, who was 13 years older, and I loved hearing stories about what it was like to grow up in the shadow of her older sister. My adult relationship with Josie began in the mid-60s when I was a graduate student at the University of Chicago and spanned the next 50 years, up to this past June, when we last visited in person. I would regularly come to Highland Park with my laundry and my problems, And Josie was always there with an open heart, a listening ear, and her famous dessert bars and cookies. When my mom died in 1975, Josie became almost like a second mother. She helped me plan my wedding, which took place at her beautiful home on Stonegate Drive, and she was there when our son Daniel was born. Over the years, our relationship evolved. Josie was my confidant, my counselor, my friend. When I came to visit, we would sit at the kitchen table, sharing family stories, past and present, swapping recipes. Josie was a great cook and a fabulous hostess, as you've already heard, talking politics, and after I moved to Brandeis, talking about the challenges of working in the field of Jewish education. Josie used to say that she joined the family business when she became a Jewish educator, and I too followed in those footsteps when I took an academic position at Brandeis in Jewish education. Josie was a talented and widely respected Jewish educational leader. I loved hearing about the creative programs she developed at B'nai Torah, like the school assemblies where she would interview the rabbi as he impersonated a biblical character, or the amazing art and music programs she regularly pulled off. I was especially impressed by Josie's relationship, not just with the kids, as Elisa talked about, but with her teachers, who stayed on teaching year after year. Very unusual. She knew how to build on their strengths and bring out their talents, and they loved working with her. Josie was very modest, but as you've heard, she was remarkable. Besides supplying unconditional love and acceptance to family and close friends, she was a model of generosity, curiosity, and open-mindedness. Over the years, I saw her adjust to big changes in her personal and professional life, as well as in the world around her. She was always receptive to new ideas and possibilities. She loved good company. She loved a good joke. She taught all of us how to age with grace without losing one's zest for life. When Josie turned 90, the family had a big party, and my siblings and I wrote a song for the occasion to the tune of There Is Nothing Like a Dame. The song had many verses tracing Josie's life and accomplishments, and the chorus went like this. There was no one like our aunt, no one in the world. Animal, mineral, or plant, there is nobody like our aunt. And as Josie used to say, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
I call a piano duettist and close friend, Raina Madison, to speak.
What a delight to hear all these dynamic stories, just so vivid. Those we dearly love can never be lost, for those we love dearly become a part of us. And these words of Helen Keller capture the way that I feel about the gift of having Joki in my life. I first met Joki when in the choir at B'nai Torah, and she asked me one day if I'd like to play some duets with her. And I thought, well, we can sit down at the piano, play through some duets. Well, we did, and now, over 20 years later, we've continued playing our four-handed keyboard works, even up to a few weeks ago. She had such a keen ear and a musical sense. Joki also had a keenly honed people sense. She could skillfully read people, manage people, and handle delicate situations, both personally and professionally. I first observed and interacted with Joki in her role as the Director of Religious Education at B'nai Torah, in which she served for over 32 years. I've seen her in action, always using her skill and wisdom to bring about good and to make people of all ages feel good about themselves. She shepherded many young lives through their beginning days of religious school to the becoming young Jewish adults, and in at least one instance, even president of the temple.
Jokey had a lively wit and a delightful sense of humor. When little Josephine Kleiman was born in 1927, her brother Morty noticed that her initials were J.K., which he said made her a little jokey. And the nickname stuck for almost 10 decades. And she fully lived up to it. She knew tons of jokes on all topics. No matter what a conversation was about, Jokey could readily retrieve a relevant joke. Even through the last weeks of her life, she would frequently strike a note of levity with a dry comment or a wry observation. Jokey deeply appreciated and cherished the people and the relationships in her life, both friends and family. It's through her that I met so many of you. And she was always gracious and adept in social interactions. She would remember details of your stories and always ask for specific updates on what was going on in your life. And Jokey was always quick to express her thanks to everyone for everything even throughout these last days of her life. I am blessed with such rich memories of times and events we've shared. And though I am sad that our days and our doing things together have come to an end, I am delighted for her new freedom and endless dimensions to explore. And I have a firm sense of her loving, ongoing presence and its impact not only on my life, but I'm sure on so many of yours. For those we love dearly, become a part of us. I send.
At least 7 years ago, Jokey asked me to come over and discuss writing that ethical will. So for over 7 years, every Monday on my calendar, it would tell me, like, call Jokey and see if she wants to continue discussing the ethical will. She graduated from Central High School at only 16 years of age and went on to attend and graduate from Kansas City University. Her first job after college was a program director at the Jewish Community Center in Omaha, Nebraska. She got her master's, and her vast career earned her the Reformed Jewish Educator title in the midst of her tremendous nearly 5 decades as a Jewish educator. With her parents as founding members of B'nai Torah, Jokey was quickly asked to help get its religious and Hebrew school established. She spent 2 summers for that master's in California, attending an intensive program at Hebrew Union College to earn her degree in Jewish communal service. She started working with Rabbi Shalom Singer around 1974. I've been blessed with knowing and loving Jokey for these last 12 years, because if you know her, then you can't help but love her. It was always an honor to move Torah study to her home on Saturdays when we could, so she could participate in person. I always knew what it meant whenever Jokey showed up to services in person, the Herculean effort it took in her love of being at services in body and spirit, being surrounded by the community that adored her and that she adored. Thankfully, in the pandemic, Raina and her support caregivers made sure she could attend Shabbat services on Zoom all of these 4 remaining years of her life. She enjoyed it as much as we all loved seeing her and wishing her a Shabbat Shalom on Zoom at the conclusion of services. And you talked about, she would say, like, oh, the postage stamps, whenever we would go to gallery mode and she could see everyone. To have lived a life filled with such love, such devotion, incredible children, grandchildren, and friends is all we can ask of our life. Jokey was a mensch, a great intelligence, a loving mother, grandmother, and friend. She gave her all to the people who meant the most to her and always tried to give sage advice when asked. She's the last surviving aunt, mother, on both sides of her family. She is a light we were all blessed to share. Time with Jokey was time with a jestful sage, the likes of which most of us may never see again. She was blessed with humility, grace, humor, vast intelligence, and a mind that refused to quit. We were all blessed with having experienced a life with Jokey in it, for having memories of her smile and warmth to keep us in our grief and fill us with gratitude for knowing such a remarkable human being. In living, we all try to make the best of life, surrounded by the people who mean the most to us in the world. We try to make the world a better place, and Joki succeeded. You are all her legacy. We are all her legacy. May we remember Joki and her strength and for all the moments where she made a difference in our lives. May her best moments always brighten our day, and may our memories always be a blessing, as she was such a blessing in all of our lives. Elisa wanted a poem read called Then by Muriel Rukeyser. When I am dead, even then, I will still love you. I will wait in these poems. When I am dead, even then, I am still listening to you. I will still be making poems for you out of silence. Silence will be falling into that silence. It is building music.
Adonai rohi lo hexar bino deshe yarbitzeni al me menuchot al me menuchot Yenaleni Nafshi Yeshovev Yeshovev Yanche Nibemagelet Tzedek Yancheni b'maglet tzedek leman shemo. Gam ki elech beget zalmavet lo hirora ki ata imadi shivtecha umishantecha hemayenacha muni taroch lefanai lefanai shulchan neged zorerai dishanta vashemen roshi kosi revayai Octova chesed yidefuni kol yemechayai kol yemechayai v'shavti bevet Adonai leorech yamim. Adonai rohi lo exar. Adonai rohi lo exar.
We turn in our pamphlets to read those words beautifully sung of the 23rd Psalm. We continue together in English. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. You make me lie down in green pastures. You lead me beside the still waters. You restore my soul. You guide me in straight paths for your name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. For you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You have anointed my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. We pray silently as they continue to vault the casket. We've placed earth from Israel, a piece of our original home. We continue in silence.
Olam chesed yibana, yalalai, lai, lai, yalalai, lai. 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 Olam chesed yibana, yalalai, lai, lai, yalalai, lai.
We rise in body and spirit for El Melech Rachamim, our memorial prayer.
El Melech Rachamim, shochen b'amromim, hamseh menucha nechona tachat kanfei hashkinah. Im kedoshim utahorim kezohar harakia mazhirim. Et nishmat Yehudit bat Shaul ve'Esther shehalacha le'olama. Baal harachamim yastireha beseter kenefav le'olamim veitzror bitzror hachayim et nishmata. Adonai hu nachlata v'tanuach b'shalom al mishkava v'nomar amen.
Compassionate God, eternal spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to Joki Solomon, who has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let her find refuge in your eternal presence and in the shadow of your wings, and let her soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is her inheritance. May she rest in peace, and let us say, Amen. We continue in the pamphlets with the mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, v'alma divrach yirateh v'yamlich malchuteh, b'chai echon v'yom echon v'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala v'zman kari v'maru. Amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam olamei almaya, Yitbarach, Vishtabach, Vitbar, Vitromam, Vitnase, Vitadar, Vitale, Vitalal, Shemed, Kurisha, Barichu, Le'ela Minko, Berchata, Vishirata, Tushbechata, Venechemata, Damiran, Beoma, Vimaru, Amen. Yehe Shlama Rabba Min Shemaya, V'chayim Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael, Vimaru, Amen. Ose Shalom Bimromav, Huya Ase Shalom, Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael, Vimaru, Amen. May God grant peace to those who mourn and comfort to all the bereaved as we say together, Amen. As we prepare to place earth into the grave of our loved one Joki, it is the mitzvah that can never be repaid, so it's become tradition to place 3 scoopfuls of sand or earth into a grave to show that we come not by accident, not by coincidence, but by true devotion to our loved one.
At this time, we're going to ask the family to please come forward. They can place earth from either side of the grave. We will also ask that everyone please be very mindful of your footing near the grave. If you have issues with balance, perhaps let someone else participate for you. Upon conclusion of our services, the family will observe Shiva Monday and Tuesday from 4 p.m. until 8 p.m. at the Solomon Residence in Highland Park. The address is available on your service phone. Minion will be this evening at 6:15 and tomorrow at 5.